Hello and welcome back to Underlab. Today I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at perhaps one of the biggest mysteries within the game. The player wasn't the first human to fall underground. Far from it in fact. 7 humans fell down before you, and each seemingly died at some point or another. We know what happened to one of them, Chara, or Kara, the first human. They died when they planned to escape the underground alongside Azrael Dreamer. But what happened to the other 6? When we come to confront Asgore, he has 6 containers storing the souls of the fallen humans. They're all different colours, which is notable, as I'll explain later on. What many people wonder, however, is what exactly happened for these humans to be separated from their souls. No direct answer is explained in-game. However, there is the occasional piece of evidence that could tell us something. Let's take a look and see if we can work out what might have happened to the 6 humans. Firstly, allow me to explain a little about the human souls as a whole. By playing the snowball game in Snowdin, we can learn what each colour stands for. As I mentioned earlier, each soul is a distinct colour, and there's a reason for that. Light blue represents patience, orange represents bravery, dark blue represents integrity, yellow resembles justice, purple resembles perseverance, and green resembles kindness. As I mentioned before, we see the souls in containers when we encounter Asgore. There's also coffins in the basement of his home, which is where the fallen humans were buried. None of this gives us much insight into the personalities of the 6 humans. However, this all changes when fighting Omega Flowey. Omega Flowey is infused with the power of the 6 humans who were slain, and because of this, traces of their former lives manifest when fighting the warped flower creature. I'll go over each of these now. I'm mostly trying to work out what actually happened to the humans with this video, though I think it will be useful to also try to work out as much as we can about them. The light blue soul attacks us with knives, and then heals us with bandages. The dark blue soul attacks us using belay shoes and stars, then heals us using music notes. The purple soul damages us using depressing thoughts and words, while healing with positivity. The orange soul attacks us with mysterious gloves with holes in their centres, then heals using hands with their thumbs up. The yellow soul shoots at us with a revolver, and then heals with 4-leaf clovers. Finally, the green soul attacks us with frying pans, and then heals us with cooked eggs. What at first seem to be abstract and bizarre attacks are actually much more when we start to look at the evidence. It seems then during these stages of the fight, we're getting to see a small part of what was once the human soul's lives. Let's take a look at them one by one, starting with the light blue soul, ergo patience. In the ruins, we discover a faded ribbon and a toy knife, which were no doubt once the belongings of the human who represented this trait. Note how we're attacked by knives during the light blue soul phase of the Flowey fight. Their belongings seem to suggest that they were likely a very young child, so not unlike Frisk. Now, why of all places are their belongings found in the ruins? Well, I have several ideas. The ruins are clearly one place where it's possible to fall into the underground. We don't know if you can from anywhere else, though it seems quite likely. The patient human no doubt fell within the same place Frisk did, and perhaps it was because of their patience that they succumbed to their fate. They may have felt that they weren't in a rush to escape the underground, and because of that they remained within the ruins, but then they were possibly caught or killed by the aggressive inhabitants. This may seem unlikely considering how weak Froggits and Whimsuns generally are, though don't forget that Patience seems to have been the youngest human to perish. That likely means they were the weakest too, and so their soul was unable to avoid the monster's attacks. Remember that in Undertale, blue attacks indicate that you have to stay still to avoid being damaged. Perhaps the patient human was more used to remaining in one place than trying to avoid something that's attacking you, and therefore was easily defeated. Let's move on to bravery next, because their belongings are found in the next zone, Snowdin. We can purchase a tough glove and manly bandana from the shopkeeper in Snowdin town. If you remember correctly, during the bravery phase of the Omega Flowey fight, we're attacked by hands that could represent gloves. It seems that the brave human's possessions somehow ended up in Snowdin, and then by extension the bunny monster's inventory. Somehow I don't think the bunny was responsible for their death, but I do have a few ideas to explain how they could have possibly met their fate in Snowdin. Let's think about what Snowdin was like before you adventured through it. There was a time when one certain sentry, namely Sans, wasn't quite so lazy as he is now. Toriel made him promise to never harm any human who comes through the door, which is why he doesn't attack us the first time we leave the ruins. In his own words, we'd be dead where we stand. Of course, that's not to say that this promise was ever in effect during the time the brave human found themselves in Snowdin. Being so brave, perhaps they tried to go up against the all-powerful skeleton. It's not too hard to figure out what would happen next. In Waterfall, we find the equipable items the old tutu and belay shoes. Once again, you'll remember during the Flowey fight that we encountered something similar, when we were attacked by the aforementioned belay shoes. Clearly then, these are the belongings of the Dark Blue Soul, otherwise known as Integrity. Interestingly, we find the tutu hidden behind a waterfall. Once again, we're left with the question of what happened to the human for their belongings to somehow end up in Waterfall. A likely explanation is that they encountered Undyne. Something tells me that a pink tutu really isn't the best protection against a magically charged spear. Perhaps, however, they simply succumbed to the slick terrain of Waterfall. Walking through rapids and navigating rocks that must surely be very wet in belay shoes is definitely one way of getting yourself killed in a timely fashion. Also, perhaps it's worth considering what exactly integrity means. Generally, it implies honesty and morality, though it can also mean to remain undivided. Perhaps the human with integrity stood up to Undyne, but because of their principles, perhaps they were standing up to protect someone else after all, they refused to back down and run away, even when that would have been the better option. Therefore, that might have been what resulted in their unfortunate demise. The human with integrity seems to have not been the only human who died in Waterfall, however. We also find the former possessions of the perseverant human, namely their torn notebook and cloudy glasses. Gerson will sell them to us. It's extremely difficult for me to say why exactly this is the case. Maybe they persevered to get a good deal from the tortoise monster, which resulted in Gerson snapping and calling on Undyne. Okay, I'm kind of joking, but it really is quite hard to say. I feel Perseverance has the least information about them available. If only we could read what was inside their notebook, but apparently it's illegible. Kind of like a certain someone who writes in symbols. Anyhow, moving on to Hotland, and we'll retrieve the items that once belonged to the Green Soul, Kindness. It seems they were once a chef, as these items happen to be a frying pan and a stained apron. Now, I do have an idea or two as to what could have happened to the Green Soul. Remember that in Hotland, Metaton hosts his various TV shows. One of these just so happens to be themed around cooking. Cooking with a killer robot, that is. While it's somewhat debated, Metaton claims on the Genocide run that his body's original purpose was for killing humans. This supports that claim, as it doesn't seem too far-fetched to me to suggest that the kind human was killed on Metaton's bizarre MasterChef knockoff show. It seems coincidental that the character, who just so happened to be a chef, died in the one place where you can end up getting killed live on air by a flamboyant tin can. Finally, we reach Metaton Resort and discover that we can purchase the Soul of Justice's items from Bratty and Catty. They appear to have been some sort of lawmaker, perhaps a sheriff of sorts in life, as they use both a revolver and a cowboy hat. It's worth remembering that we'll soon be encountering Sans within the Justice Hall, who judges us for all we're worth, based on his perception of justice. Perhaps this human was defeated by Sans in objection to how they were judged. Or maybe they are Sans. Check out the very first theory video I made for an explanation as to how that works. Another possibility is that they came as far as they did to deliver justice to Asgore for ordering the deaths of the 5 other humans. It seems, however, that they failed in their quest and ended up having their soul claimed as well, either by Asgore or by someone else. That about sums up the amount we can surmise on each individual soul. There really is very little information about them within the game. So what exactly have we learned? It seems there's likely explanations as to what caused the deaths of each of the 6 humans. Of course, it's virtually impossible to say for sure. I'm just giving the best suggestions I can. Maybe each individual human was brought before Asgore and executed, and their belongings somehow ended up where they did by other means. It's a great mystery as to what actually happened to these poor souls, and one we may never know the full extent of. I think, however, that it's a good reminder that the monsters aren't guiltless. While Undertale's true pacifist ending is extremely optimistic, is it really fair to let whoever killed those likely innocent humans go free? Of course it was out of necessity, but it seems pretty certain that the 6 humans never consented to being killed for the sake of monster kind. There's some truly dark mysteries buried away within Undertale just begging to be explained, and we may not be at the bottom of this one just yet. Anyhow, I'll leave it to you to decide whether killing the humans was right or wrong. I suppose Flowey was right. For some individuals, the world really is kill or be killed. It's certainly interesting to think about what happened to the souls, as it's mostly left to us to work out by ourselves. There's all manner of explanations out there, but I tried my best to keep my speculations within what's clearly evidenced within the game. Do you have any ideas what might have happened to any of the 6 humans? Let me know in the comments if you do. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video, try not to get killed by rampaging froggets, and I'll see you next time.